Hello guys, welcome to the NobCast. World Cup group stages are done. This is a World Cup group stage special edition of the NobCast with your hosts, Nobbins and
Gaskey, baby.
Gaskey baby. Is that different to Gaskey? Do you have a child now?
No. Unless I've knocked up some girl.
It could happen. It really could happen.
Oh. Right.
But yes, guys, we are going to be doing a group stage recap. All the matches have taken place now. We are into the round of 16 right now. We're not going to be doing any mini games or ball busters. We're going to wait until after the end of the World Cup for that, just to keep it football focused for now. We'll also recap on what our predictions were in respect of the group stages, such as flop of the tournament, top scorer, see how they're going, and also previewing the round of 16 matches, and also having a look at the questions from the Noblets, the supporters on Patreon in NobGas. If you're watching on the YouTube, please make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new, if you enjoy football podcasts. Anyway, if you don't enjoy football podcasts, this really isn't the channel for you, so leave right now and do not subscribe. I can't really advise you to subscribe to something you will not enjoy. But Gaskey, speaking of enjoyment, have you been enjoying the World Cup?
I tell you what, considering obviously with all the backlash of where it is and all that stuff, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the underdogs. I've enjoyed some of the goals. I've enjoyed performances. I've really enjoyed myself.
Excellent. And this is going to sort of pivot into an interesting question Gaskey posed to me a few days ago. In terms of enjoyment, I know this is very subjective. What are you defining as your enjoyment factor? So, for example, I like entertainment and I like quality of football. Now, this World Cup has had a lot of upsets. We'll get into whether that's a good thing or a bad thing later. But I'd say that in respect of quality, it's not been that good. I'd actually say it's sort of similar to like the 2010 World Cup in respect of quality. Do you care about that, or do you just care about like storylines and entertainment and drama?
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. I agree that I feel a lot of the bigger countries, especially like your top 10 in the rankings, the ones that are expected to go as far as possible, have not been as good. Like they have been under par. A lot of these teams, but it does add to the whole enjoyment of. You can tell that there's a competitive edge from these smaller nations who are fighting back, and it makes it interesting. Like I'm sat on these, especially these last set of matches, flicking between channels because it's like, oh, that's going to affect that game, and that game's going to affect that game. Especially with Group G, Group E, I think it is, isn't it? Germany and Spain's group. Mm-hmm. Just you're constantly flicking, and that's kind of like, oh my god, if they score, that means they're out, and it's brilliant. I enjoy that aspect. But yeah, I understand with that whole quality, like it has been a bit like not that many amazing, like, oh my god, what a goal, and watch this goal, this is brilliant, or stuff that players are doing. It's been a bit flat, but I've enjoyed these like underdog goals and the way that everything changes, like 1 point Germany and Spain both being out for 3 minutes, things like that. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, and there was even an instance in Group C where yellow cards were the only thing keeping Poland in the group. So interesting drama in the later stages anyway. But Gaskey, I now want to move on to the question that you posed me, and we'll dissect this topic a little bit. So what was the question that you asked me the other day?
About so would you rather have the way we've had it now with the underdogs knocking out the big teams and stuff, enjoying the group stages, and then having poor quality last 16 matches, or get what you expect out of the group stage and have these tighter matches throughout the knockouts?
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's pro cons to both. So right now, in the moment, you love it. You love the fact that Korea have beaten Portugal, for example, and got through and knocked Uruguay out, and the way that Germany and Spain both could have been out, it creates that kind of atmosphere. But then, like you said before we started the podcast, nothing really excites you about the last 16 because of that. Like, Japan, Croatia's a bit, either could go through. Whereas, the last 16 usually would be your group winners will comfortably win, or you'd expect them to comfortably win. And then your last 8 becomes the massive games. Whereas now it's a bit like, similar to the way people acted like with England in 2018, they kind of strolled. They could have strolled to the final with the quality of teams they had to play, and it can be a bit, nobody's really played each other yet. But then again, it's like at the moment you get to enjoy these crazy, comebacks and shock wins.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the moment it's interesting and exciting. For example, Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, biggest upset in World Cup history, and that sort of thing. But I think for the sake of the tournament overall, I think it probably is better to have the bigger teams in the competition in the later stages. We'll do our predictions for the round of 16s. But for example, the only round of 16 game that genuinely interests me is England-Senegal, and that's just because I'm English. If I wasn't, I don't really think I'd have any interest in any of the others. Like, what even is the closest matchup? Maybe Japan-Croatia, maybe England-Senegal, maybe Morocco-Spain. But I do feel like the fact that we've lost traditionally stronger, bigger teams, Denmark, Uruguay, Germany, Belgium, I think, even though they deserve to get knocked out in terms of the group stages, but you still feel like those teams are capable of producing a quality match when it matters in terms of the knockout rounds. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. Maybe we will see some really high quality, entertaining football. But it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like it's fun in the moment, but long term, is it an issue? I'm conflicted about it, but I think it's an interesting topic. And in fact, in the comment section, if you guys let us know, do you think it's a good thing that so many big teams are getting knocked out and that so many upsets are happening, or do you think it's a longer-term detriment to the overall tournament as a whole? Be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Here's another half of it as well. Do you think with these teams that have underperformed, do you think, you remember when we were saying at the end of the season, like before they broke up for the World Cup, teams are the players are not trying as hard because they've got a World Cup to go to. Do you reckon there's an effect of the players of actual fatigue at the World Cup, whereas these other countries, like, as much respect as possible, like the leagues that some of these players play in are not as competitive as your Premier League and your Spanish leagues, etc. Do you think they're feeling that fatigue of having to play so many matches? Like, for example, Germany struggling, and then, like, say, losing against Japan, and Spain losing against Japan, is that because most of these Japanese players don't play as competitively and then maybe they're more up for it?
It could be that, it might be an intangible, like a passion situation. I think what also is probably a big factor is that because it's in the middle of the season, the international managers have had a week to prepare, which is, they normally get 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to prepare. So I think that makes the differences less between the bigger boys and the smaller boys, because it means that there's less preparation. Therefore, there's less chance for the bigger teams to deploy, the systems and the tactics that they would like to do. So I think it maybe sort of levels out the playing field. So that might be why we're seeing so many shock results and knockouts as well.
And why, like, Saudi Arabia, for example, most of them play for the same team, so used to playing together anyway. And these bigger countries have to get used to, I've got a week to figure out who I'm going to play. Someone might, like France, for example, lost loads of players to injuries. And I think Brazil today have lost 2 the rest of the tournament. And they're having to deal with that as well. Whereas these other teams are just obviously, right, we used to play together, don't have to actually do much with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely could be. I think all those factors amalgamating is probably the reason why, definitely. But yeah, good thing or bad thing, chaps, let us know in the comment section. Let's get on to the group stage roundup.
It's all here and it's all football, all the time.
We are going to be starting with Group A, which saw, I think this is certainly the only one I predicted 100% correctly. Gaskey, I think it's also you as well. Yeah, so we both correctly predicted Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, Qatar. No real drama here. Qatar are objectively the worst host nation in World Cup history, the only host nation to have lost their opening match, the only host nation to have lost all 3 of their games. They scored 1 goal, which was irrelevant, and they officially have 0 points, and they got humbly beaten 2-0 in every single match. But I mean, we predicted that. Like, they were shocking, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I mean, they had glimpses where you felt, they're actually not that bad, but they were just, 95% of the time they were just a bit, no, they don't. It feels like we need to put a team together. Let's just go and wander the streets and find 26 people.
It was just bizarre. It was almost like they were trying to play out from the back. They were trying to play like Spain.
You're trying to play modern football, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
You do not have the ability to do that.
Yeah, it's got to come to a point, isn't it, where you bite the bullet and you're like, okay, chaps, we actually are not good enough here.
Oh, Stoke.
Yeah. Well, that may have got them a point, who knows.
Yeah.
But Netherlands comfortably topped the group eventually. They did draw against Ecuador, but I think we talked about it. I think we can both envisage this Netherlands side getting to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But if they come up against a more rounded team, a team with higher quality, such as, Argentina, France, Brazil, England, etc., we think that's probably going to be the end of their journey, don't we?
Yeah. I think on their side of the draw, I think it's, if I'm right, it's Argentina they play. If results, the last team would go as they do, it's Argentina, Netherlands. I think Argentina may have, like you said, more depth and more overall better. Yeah.
Yeah, but they do have a player who's really caught your eye, Gakpo, I believe it's called.
Definitely. Yeah. I want USA to win, so he comes home quicker. It's obviously a bit cheaper than he save a couple of million. He's been very good. I feel like a very well-rounded player. So it's good that you get. He could be there's always that one young player who shines at a World Cup and gets the transfer. Mm-hmm. So he could be him potentially.
He's got links to Man United, hasn't he?
Yeah.
There we go. So that could be a potential thing. But yeah, Netherlands comfortably topping the group in the end. Although they did slip up against Ecuador, who were unfortunate to not qualify. And for me, they were one of the biggest surprise teams of the tournament, I think. Yeah. I didn't expect them to do as well as they did.
Yeah, I didn't think about Ecuador at all. I just thought, Senegal. Well, obviously, when we did predictions, I think it was before, in my head anyway, Mane got injured. But I still felt Senegal would be strong enough, which they obviously were. But Ecuador's a very young squad as well. A very young team. They've got, obviously, I think, a couple of Brighton players in there, very good players. And I feel like maybe the moment got ahead of them, being young, thinking, we can get through here, and got a bit, because I just feel like it got to the end of the game and they were attacking in that Senegal game, and they didn't really have a plan. It was more just hit and hope in a way, because they were just shots from anywhere, and it was like a bit of naivety maybe from being younger players. But I think they've got a good future with Ecuador.
Yeah, and Valencia, I think, getting 3/4 of Ecuador's goals in total for this World Cup as well.
Problem as well for them, but yeah.
And then finally, Senegal, really weird team, much worse than I thought they would be, even with Sadio Mane. I thought they were going to perform much better. I thought they were poor, even against Qatar. I didn't think they were great. They conceded to Qatar.
Yeah, exactly. The only goal they've scored, and it was a bit of a weird one as well. They're just very hit and miss. I feel like a lot of the teams have been a hit and miss at this World Cup, where you'll watch a game and you'll go, they look really good, and the next game you're like, huh? What? What was that last game we just watched?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just and that's worrying with Senegal when they're hot and cold, because in theory their two best players are a goalkeeper and a centre half. So you want them to be what's the word, consistent, rather than sometimes they're brilliant, sometimes they're rubbish.
Those have been the dodgy ones.
Yeah,
out of them all.
Exactly. So, but that we will get into the round of 16. That is obviously England's opponent, and to be honest, when it came down to Senegal, Ecuador, as an England fan, I wanted Senegal in the end rather than Ecuador, because I thought Ecuador. I know they lost against Senegal in that one-off match.
They felt there was more there with Ecuador than at Senegal, more threatening. Yeah,
I felt there was a more cohesive team. For sure. But that is Group A. Me personally, I can't see any of those teams going past the quarterfinal. And Gaskey, I think you're of the same view.
I think so. Yeah, But Netherlands potentially could get to the finals, but they won't get to the final, I don't think.
I'd say who will get to the final. Someone in Group B, and
the best team from the group stages. Don't forget.
And hint, it isn't the USA. It's England. No one has got a better group stage record at this World Cup. No one was able to get 3 wins from 3, and if people did get 2 wins and a draw, no one can match our goal difference. It was so stop the count. Just hand us a trophy now. It was a roller coaster of emotions as England fans. We did the first podcast after the Iran game, so we were buzzing about that.
Yeah,
and then we did watch-alongs of the the USA game, followed by the Wales game. We were really poor against the US, and then we battered a really poor Wales side. So overall, Gaskey, how are you feeling about England's group stage performances? Are you still a little bit down about the whole US situation, or are you like, nah, we were great?
I'm happy. I'm happy with the fact that they've scored 9. They've scored, I think it's the most in the group stage. They have 2 goals. I mean, one of them was just a stupid penalty. It made no sense why that was a penalty. But yeah, my worry is, again, the manager. Why you've gone into that USA game and you've played that way? Why? Go and win every game. Make teams fear you. Don't fear them. And that's how it felt to me. I was like, so it worries you when, if let's say they get past Senegal, play France in the quarters, are you just going to be like, okay, we're going to play the same way we play against USA and just hope? Yeah. That's how it feels, and that's my concern. Is I just know you can just he'll just change it off the cuff. I was going to change how we're going to play, and then it's like, oh no, just keep going. Keep going the same way. You got. I stand by it. They got the best squad at the World Cup, and they can rotate nearly any midfield / attacker and still be a strong team. And the big issue he's got, and it's a good issue, is what wingers do you play? Mm-hmm. Because they've all performed in their own way.
Yeah, and that makes it even more bizarre and confusing when in the US game, when we're desperate for a goal, and we're right, who can we bring on in our moment of need? And who comes on? Jordan Henderson of all players. Yeah.
That rounded up that match. That was like, oh, let's instead of going and trying to score, let's just make sure we don't concede. That's how it felt.
Yeah, and what wasn't necessarily a bad change because it did give us more midfield control, but somehow Mason Mount stayed on the pitch, and Foden.
Don't mention him. He's up there with Trent.
And Foden just stayed on the bench for the entire game. And then we saw when he started for Wales, he was really good, almost as if he should play. So I'm hoping that that's a wake-up call for Southgate, and that he realises, look, if you don't want to play him in the midfield, you've still got to find a place for him in the team on the wing somewhere, because he adds a totally different dimension to this England side. Yeah,
with him playing on the wing as well, it's not too bad because he does drift in, and you overload that midfield against most teams, and you outnumber them, and you can see how quick he is as well with his feet. He's brilliant, and it just creates space.
Yeah, definitely. And you can actually do that 1-2 touch passing play. And he's incredibly technically gifted. So I don't really know if any of our other players can take it in tight spaces and control it so quickly like Phil Foden can. Yeah. Mount definitely can't. Henderson definitely can't. Yeah.
Exactly.
So for me, Foden has to start every single game if possible.
I agree.
But it was really good to see Kyle Walker get some minutes against Wales. That was
needed
because I think
he wasn't poor either. He was very good. He showed strength and his pace.
He didn't look like he was injured.
No, didn't at all.
Yeah, and I think that Gary Lineker on Twitter pointed out that in terms of right backs in world football right now, who can take on Mbappe in terms of Mbappe's form?
I think there's not many. I think Walker's pace and his physicality can keep him quiet.
Exactly.
But then what will happen is Mbappe will go to the other side and he's absolutely sure to do it. So what will happen?
Well, I think that's because what I found interesting is I've seen online people going, oh, Mbappe's going to embarrass Kyle Walker. Blah, blah, blah. They've already played each other before when PSG played City, and Kyle Walker shut up. In fact, it got so bad that I think Neymar was silenced by Kyle Walker. That they swapped wings, and then Mbappe had a go, and he still shut him up in that game.
You just hope he does it again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that as long as Walker's fully fit, then we should be okay in that respect, unless, as you say, he then decides to focus on the other side. But overall, we're happy with the team generally, yeah?
As an overall, I would say I'm 75% happy with the group stage. I mean, obviously, 100% would have been to go and batter USA, but it didn't happen, did it? So, but I'm 75%. I was impressed. Yeah. I was surprised they played that well, to be honest, in them 2 games.
And it's looking like it looks like we're sticking with a back 4. Harry Maguire looks solid. John Stones looks solid.
There's a partnership there.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Yorkshire brick wall in front of Pickford.
And Pickford, he's not had much to do, but when he's had to do it, he's done it. And Bellingham looks really good. Our wingers, whoever you play, look really good.
Bellingham's a bit of a strange one, isn't he? Because when he's further up, there's a few players in United that like that. Yeah, when he's in the other half, he's fine, but in his own half, he's a bit. I don't know. He feels a bit iffy. Like that's not his game yet.
Yeah, well, he's still a young man. He's
he's got plenty of time. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to improve from that. But that's where I would see his improvement would be what to do in his own half when he hasn't got the ball.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. On the ball, I think he's great. I like his late runs from midfield. I think if you play him in the number 10, he gets a bit lost and doesn't really know the role that well. I think we saw because he was quite quiet against Wales.
We said in the Wales game, didn't we? Like I forgot he was on the pitch. Like he's not barely touched the ball. Like Henderson's getting it that much.
Yeah,
that should really be Bellingham getting the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, whatever we think, England objectively, statistically, the best team in the group stage. In again, FIFA rankings are only FIFA rankings, but this is technically the trickiest group of the entire World Cup.
What's a harder group? Having two really good. Well, let's look at. Well, we'll mention it when we get to it. But Spain and Germany's group, they're two titans, and the other two have considered in the rankings poor teams in the World Cup. Or all three teams being above average, and then one good team. That's what you think's a harder group.
Exactly. USA also qualified. I think they're currently playing the Netherlands as we record this podcast. In fact, I think they're losing to the Netherlands.
I think so.
But I think we both predicted they were going to get knocked out anyway. They were only able to score. How many goals did they even score? They scored 2 goals.
2 and 1 conceded.
Yeah, so there's not a lot going on there in respect.
They are one of 4 teams I think that haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
So they're obviously hard to beat, but they just don't offer enough, do they?
Yeah. Not good enough. Yeah, and we saw that in the England game. They had loads of chances, but they just weren't able to convert them. Was it McKenzie in particular who just blazed over from a really good...
McKennie, he had a good chance,
Yeah, so I think that's... round 16 is probably going to be the end for them. But they're a relatively young side, I believe.
Yeah, they're like a full refresh since both like 2010, and I think they've got potential to be a very good team because they're getting much better.
And they're also hosting the next World Cup.
So they're automatically in it.
And a huge advantage being on home turf. Let's a home nation in Wales. Really bad. They scored 1 goal and that was a penalty.
I was extremely disappointed in them overall in that World Cup. You'd think that they just didn't show up at all. They offered nothing. Yeah,
and especially in the England game where it's basically like, just go for it, lads, because it's been like, what is it, 50, 60 years since Wales have been in the World Cup. Unless it's an outrageous situation where you win, like, where you beat England and win like 4-0, whatever, you're not going to qualify anyway. So just go for it and have fun and express yourself.
You just didn't do anything in the England game at all.
Yeah.
One shot they had on target was the one that Harry Maguire tried to score for him. Put it in the corner for him, help him out a bit.
So I predicted Wales to come second, so you've let me down, lads, to be honest.
I got that group. I got the 2 through right, just Wales ran the wrong way around.
Yeah. And speaking of Iran, pleasantly surprised with them overall?
Yeah. Well, for the first game I thought, bloody hell, bad are these. But then the Wales game, they were actually quite good. They actually offered something going forward.
And even the US game.
Yeah, even the US game, they actually offered something. They just I don't know. I mean, I think they've lost a few half decent players, but I was surprised. Managed to get a win on the bag, and they win in the bag. So
and they were very close. They were, I think, inches away from getting an equaliser against the US, close. Which would have taken them through. So Iran pleasantly surprised with them. Group C, again, I didn't get this one right. This is the one where it came down to like a yellow card situation with Mexico and Poland. And then Mexico, even though they went a goal down against Saudi Arabia, even if they scored a goal, they would have gone through on goals scored. So that group was going until the dying embers of it. Argentina obviously topped it in the end. Bit of a weird one. They started by causing the biggest upset in World Cup history by losing to Saudi Arabia, but then they seem to have changed however they play, and it basically seriously dominated Poland, and they basically dominated Mexico. As well. So do you think that for Argentina that was just like an early slip up and now they're
I think it was just a flip because they're the only goals they conceded. Like they were fine against the other 2 teams, and it's as if they conceded and thought, "Oh bugger! Like what do we do now?" They felt a bit lost, and then it was they just crumbled. But they got some great players. They got a really good team, and they seemed okay against the other 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially so.
Definitely. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, obviously finished bottom. But they played some good football. I thought, as I say, caused the biggest upset.
I mean, the goal against Mexico was I thought it was a really, really, really brilliantly well taken goal.
Yeah, definitely. So shout out Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah.
The national team anyway, not the country. We don't like them.
Yeah, add a bit on there.
No,
It's not there.
Asterisk in brackets. And then the other two teams, Poland, Mexico. Lewandowski finally got his World Cup goal, but I think Poland have looked shite.
There is quite a few teams that have got like second and been a bit. I've not really been impressed.
No, I think they're going to get battered in the round of 16.
Yeah, who they got?
France.
Oh, they got France, and France will batter them. They've offered absolutely nothing.
They don't look like a team to me. They look like 10 players plus a bit of Lewandowski sometimes.
Well, the Argentina game, Lewandowski didn't even play. Well, he might as well have not played.
Yeah.
He just stood there for most of the game. It's like there's just no one to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm. Which is odd because they do have a couple of good individuals. Like
Zelensky's a fantastic player.
Zelensky and Cash. Milic, is he called? He's decent as well. Or certainly was a few years ago anyway, in the last World Cup. So I think they may be one of the worst. I know we'll talk about Australia. You could say they're technically worse than Poland. I'd say Poland are maybe the worst team to have gone through, in fairness, out of everyone.
So if we're going off the 3 games that were played at the World Cup,
definitely. And Mexico, they suffered heartbreak. They've got this, I think it's like since like the 90s, they've always got to the round of 16 and then always got knocked out. This time they didn't even get to the round of 16. They finally started scoring goals against Saudi Arabia. But ultimately very disappointing. And I've talked about this on my stream, Gaskey. Do you find it weird that Mexico, football is huge in Mexico? They've already hosted 2 World Cups. Yeah. They'll host the 3rd in 2026. It's the biggest sport in the country. It's a big country as well, with a passionate fan base, etc., etc. How disappointing is it that they barely produce any talent? I feel like when you look at, like, for example, Croatia, which is a tiny nation by comparison, and nowhere near the level in respect of Mexico. But Mexico, I feel like they don't actually make that many good players.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I agree with that. But, well, if you think about it, like how many actually play in top European leagues against the best players in the world?
Yeah, exactly.
Jimenez, Lozano. It might be another one, but I feel like the rest of them just play in Mexico.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's your downfall. You're a massive nation. Then if you compare it to, like, I know they didn't get through, but like Uruguay, I've got a lot of talent, and they all come to Europe to play. And to play against the best teams, and I feel like that's a big issue. Like, you're not gonna. I just feel like you're not gonna get good talent if you don't take the gamble.
Yeah, just a bit bizarre. The obvious one nowadays is Jimenez, pre-injury. Before then, Chicharito, he was okay. He wasn't a world beater. He wasn't like the level of like a Cavani or whatever.
Like, surprisingly, is he Mexico's top goal scorer in history?
I think so.
And he's had it. I think he plays in the MLS. He's had a pretty good season, didn't get picked. You'd think that is the type of player you would just think, oh, we'll pick him. Because if I'm going to bring someone on, we need a goal, I'm going to bring on the top goal scorer that we've got. But yeah, it was a weird one.
There you go, Mexico. Just not enough quality at the end of the day. Argentina's quality, even after that first loss, I still thought Argentina would top the group. That it was. I think you said it. It was a blip, and they seem to have got into their rhythm. Messi does Messi things and bails his country out over and over again. And they're going to go to at least the semi-finals, Argentina, I think. Yeah. Where they'll probably meet Brazil.
Yeah.
Group D, there's another big boy here. And another a relative big boy got knocked out. Denmark, who might be in terms of a national team, might be the biggest flop. We'll talk about Germany later, but Denmark is certainly up there, aren't they?
I mean, if we're going off qualifying, because wasn't it, they lost the last game, they won, I can't remember how many games playing qualifying, but they won every game, apart from the last one, where they rested players, and they didn't concede in the first 8 games, I think, something like that.
I also think
that's how good they were.
I think they beat France home and away in the Nations League as well.
Yeah, they did. They're through to the Nations League finals as well.
Yeah.
So they're not a bad nation, and they get 1 point.
Yeah, 1 point in a goalless draw against Tunisia.
Yeah, which was arguably the worst game at the World Cup up to now. It was awful.
Yeah, and I think of the players, like you got Schmeichel, got Højbjerg, you've got Damsgaard, you've got there's so many more. This is bad. I can't even think of who else they have. They've got a lot of good players.
Yeah,
that's the point. Come on, who else is good for Denmark? Come on, think of some more. Eriksson, yeah, Christensen. And yet it just didn't seem to click at all. They were awful. I remember watching.
I forgot how to play.
Yeah, just when I was watching the Australia game, and no offense to Australia, but it's Australia against Denmark. Denmark have to win.
Even in that game though, Australia didn't do anything.
No,
they just counter-attack and scored. Yeah, out of nowhere, they didn't have a clue.
Yeah, it was just really, really terrible from Denmark. Yeah. So, and also I know a lot of people said like, oh, they're our Denmark are my dark horse pick or whatever. I remember like the commentator was saying how the Danish people actually regarded themselves as better than a dark horse. They said, well, actually, we don't see ourselves as dark horses. We see ourselves as one of the teams that could win the competition.
It's quite a fair point considering like the run they had at the Euros. Then you add on their Nations League performance. Then you add on their qualifying performance. They kind of maybe just above dark horse.
Yeah, exactly. So to finish bottom,
it makes it even worse. It makes it even worse.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So the Danish people consider themselves as one of the favourites to win the whole thing. They finished bottom on 1 point, no wins. Really odd. And a team which did win somehow in that group, Tunisia, it was a largely irrelevant win, but they still got the win over France, a largely changed French team.
Well, that was just second string. That was definition of second string team.
Yeah, but nevertheless, they still beat France.
It still happened. Still on the record.
Yeah, exactly. But look, France topped the group. I think if I'm being honest, I think France probably the most impressive team. I can't really use the Tunisia game as any reference because it was a city team. Almost.
Yeah.
So I think France will go very far. France, if France beat England, I think France probably win the whole World Cup. To be honest. So we expect that. So we expect them to top the group. The group stage curse does not affect France with their quality, even with all their injuries. But the surprise of this group obviously has to be Australia, who finished on the same points as France after getting battered by France in the first game. By the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
which is crazy.
Yeah, and that's without Tim Cahill as well, their legendary World Cup player who's obviously retired nowadays. And yeah, for me, they may be the biggest surprise package in terms of the teams that are qualified.
From the point right now, they're the dark horses. They have to be because they shouldn't have got through.
The Socceroos.
The Socceroos, exactly. They got through. They took the lead against France.
They did.
They took the lead against France. And then they beat Tunisia and Denmark. The two, in terms of what they came into this World Cup to expect to do, or what they had to do, was beat Tunisia and Denmark, and they did it. So
yeah, so
they had to do.
Huge congrats to Australia. I can't see them getting past Argentina, to be honest. But strange, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina.
Yeah, it was only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, stranger things have happened. So that will be counter-attack and hope for a goal. So you never know. You never know with Australia. But that is Group D. Group E is the mental. This is maybe the most mental group that we had, where in a group which had Spain and Germany in it, Japan topped the group out of all of them, which is outrageous. Costa Rica did finish bottom, which I think everyone basically expected. But there was a moment in this group where both Spain and Germany were getting knocked out.
That is the moment of the World Cup. I think them 3 minutes after Costa Rica scored were the greatest 3 minutes of the World Cup, because that was just like, how is this come about? Because Spain comfortably won their first game, absolutely comfortably. Drew against Germany, which everyone was like, well, yeah, that's what you expect. But then everything just went Japan and Costa Rica's way.
Yeah. It was so funny.
For 3 minutes.
It was really funny. I just wish it lasted longer than 3 minutes. Havertz ruining our dreams for no reason.
And he learned to shoot.
Yeah. But his goals didn't even mean anything either. So Germany did Spain a huge favour, but Spain did not return that favour.
I did have that. I had a thought in my head where I would have just gone with Germany. If I was Germany, I would have gone, right, we're out. Tell you what, fuck you, Spain. Own goal, own goal, own goal. Bye. We'll see you at the airport.
Can you imagine that? Yeah. Just like out of spite, just because it's like, right, well, you're not helping us.
Whoops.
You're not helping us, so we're going to screw you over. So I know what you said, Australia, the surprise, the most overperforming team, but I mean, Japan beat Spain and Germany.
Yeah. But exactly. Like Japan, Japan and Costa Rica, similar to with Australia, is Japan had to beat Costa Rica and then somehow get something from Spain and Germany and hope results go their way. They didn't beat Costa Rica. Yeah. They beat Spain and Germany. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about Australia, but maybe Japan. The fact that they beat Spain and Germany is they'll go into this Croatia game thinking we can do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
100%. For the people watching on the video podcast, Gaskey, you seem to have shrunk down a little bit. Yeah, you seem to be like, sort of like, there you go. Look at that. Sort out your posture, you fraud.
I think I got a dodgy chair.
You got
I can feel the chair dropping as well.
You got a dodgy posture, you fraudulent man. But yes, and speaking of dodgy, I don't know what that link was. But yeah, you said it. Japan demonstrated, I think, that they are a team who can be brilliant on the counter attack and in transition. But if you ask them to try and break down a team, i.e. Costa Rica, that's when they're going to struggle. And that's why they did struggle. Although in fairness, they're not, if they somehow win their round of 16 game and continue, from this point on, they're not going to be expected to break down anyone. So they will be able to use their counter-attacking prowess. So... And that is potentially the closest round of 16 game, isn't it? Japan and Croatia.
Out of them all, that's the one where you can't. Well, obviously you can't call any match based on what we've seen, but that's the one where you are very. I don't know. Yeah,
definitely. Costa Rica, not much to say about them. They were fun for a time. Against Germany for like 3 minutes, but apart from that, they were really poor. Spain. Really weird team. I thought that the Spain-Germany game was probably the highest quality game in respect of like the not necessarily entertaining, but from like a tactical perspective and the actual quality of the players.
Yeah,
it was. You could tell it was a high level of football. So even though Spain finished second in their group, I do think they will still be going far in this World Cup. But I don't think they will make the absolute latter stages just because of maybe a bit of naivety. Maybe because of their the age profile of some of their key players.
Yeah.
And having to rely on Morata isn't necessarily the best thing.
I mean, they're not going to get to the final because they're England side now, and England are going to win it. So
there you go. You see, and then Germany. After getting knocked out in the group stages in 2018, have managed to do it again. And I mean, if you're German, I don't even know how you really process. What happened?
It's because it's very their squad's very different, isn't it, from 4 years ago now? Very different.
Yeah. Yes. When it was 2014 to 18, there was still a bit of a hangover from the team that won the World Cup. I know there are still some players now, like Muller and Neuer, for example, but most of those players have moved on now. And the idea is it's a different generation coming up with the likes of Musiala and different centre halves and defenders like Schlotterbeck. And Raum, who's the right back, or the left back, who actually looked really good, I thought. But yeah, I think Germany lost this game when they went 1-0. Sorry, Germany failed in this group when they went 1-0 up against Japan and just failed to capitalize and kill the game off. There's so many chances. I know
a sniff and Japan took the chance. So
yeah, and Germany also poor defensively, so their own worst enemy in the end. But Germany are gone. Germany are out, and we love to see that. We really do. Group F, what I don't like to see, Belgium being rubbish, because I thought they were going to do quite good for no reason. I just like Belgium, but the golden generation has ended in a whimper, hasn't it, Gaskey?
It has. Very, very poor.
Just terrible scenes. Look, I know that. Let's go touch on De Bruyne. I don't know if you've know about all the comments and stuff that he's been making, but he's basically.
Yeah, I've heard about the lot of tension in the camp.
Yes, which can't help by any means. So I'll start with that. So De Bruyne apparently asks, do you have a chance of winning the World Cup? And he basically said no because we're all too old now. Our chance to win it was 2018. It's not going to happen. Half admire the honesty, but at the same time, it's probably not going to create a brilliant dressing room atmosphere.
Vertonghen was the one that kicked off about that, wasn't it? Really, He was like, "But why?" He's not something you say out loud, is it?
No, it's something you. It's something you think. But I think for me, the point is, and it's quite ironic that Vertonghen's the one that came out and said it, because he is too old. He's 35, I think, playing in the I think he's playing for Anderlecht nowadays. He's 35 years old. He's past it. He was past it a couple of years ago. Hazard, even though he's not like he's not too old, he's just a shadow of his former self.
Yeah.
Who else? Alderweireld, he's getting on. Witsel, he's like what, 33. Mertens is 35. But despite all that, I don't know if you did. You watch the Belgium Croatia game?
I did.
Yeah. So even with all that aside, Belgium, they struggled with a win against Canada. Fine. Lost against Morocco. Fine. They put themselves in a situation where if all they've got to do is win the game, and I can't even begin to explain the missed chances.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You need to win a game. You had a bad first half. Mertens was utter crap.
So bad.
Take him off. Bring Lukaku on. Perfect. Your team are giving you, they're putting it on a plate, and you're missing.
Yeah.
The top goal scorer of your nation.
Yeah, I actually thought Belgium played quite well in the second half, and overall against Croatia, they were the better side quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Chance after chance after. I can't remember a time where I've seen. I think the XG was over 3 in that game.
Like 3.2. I think it was something like that.
Lukaku alone had over 1 XG just for himself. Because he missed at least 3 sitters. I'm sure there was like one where he just rattled the post.
The mad one was the chest one.
Yeah, that's the
when
worst.
He's kind of just gone in with it with his chest, and it's like, what are you doing?
That's the worst. Because what he's done there is the best, and this is what annoys me when people say stuff like tap-in merchants. For example, I'm going to compare him to Erling Haaland right now. If that's Haaland, he is betting and gambling on the goalkeeper and centre-back making a mistake. So he's in his head, he's thinking, this is going to happen. I'm going to be ready for this to happen. It happens. It looks like an easy tap-in.
Yeah.
But actually, Lukaku has made it clear that it's not an easy thing to do, because at no point in his brain was he thinking and banking on the opposition making a mistake.
Because what happened, wasn't it, that the keepers come to catch it and the defenders hit his head and it's gone over the keeper's hands. Yeah. And it's like, oh, here's my chance. Because I think it happened in it was the Portugal-South Korea game. One of the Portugal players was having a shot. Ronaldo saw he was about to shoot, and Ronaldo thought, I'm going to run in here and I'm going to gamble and see if something happens. Keeper spills it to him, but he just couldn't get his net around to head it in. But that shows the difference in strike quality. Yeah,
and it also happened in the first half with Carrasco. Ball came in, I think it was Meunier. All he's got to do is gamble and make the run. And there's no instinct to go and make that run. It was really odd. I know De Bruyne didn't have a great World Cup in the first 2 games. He should have had like 2 assists in that game against Croatia. I wonder what the rest of the dressing room are thinking, because I know it's not always fair to scapegoat a player, but I think that's maybe the worst 45 minutes from an individual I've ever seen at a World Cup.
Because your job, you've come on to say, get us a goal, put us through. Okay. And you've been put on a plate and you're not doing it. Mm-hmm. That's as bad as a goalkeeper letting in an own goal or dropping it through his legs. Yeah. You've had one job and you've completely fluffed it multiple times.
And I could maybe allow it once, maybe twice, but like 3 times.
Hitting the post is like, right, okay, fair enough. Use your weak foot. You've hit the post. You had to get it around the defender. All right. You should have scored at your quality, but then to do it another 3 times,
it's just unforgivable.
It's just
so that did send Croatia through. Who again, another aging side, but they showed in particular against Canada.
They're one of the best on the ball, I think. With the ball, they're very, very good.
They're still very capable of getting to at least the quarterfinals, maybe even the semi-finals. Who knows? But it's a shame, Gaskey. We'll get into our overall predictions, but your surprise team, Canada, let you down.
They have. I genuinely thought after the Belgium game, Canada, there was something there. They were like, they're gonna impress me, because they were very good against Belgium, but they've just
no.
I feel like it was just too much for them. The moment got ahead of them, maybe.
Yeah, bit tactically naive. Do you think?
Yeah, they won their qualifying. I think they won. They won it. They won like top of the table, and doing their way, and they kept their way. But clearly, the quality has increased so much that it was just too much to keep playing your way. You're going to have to change it.
Yeah,
against quality.
I find it's always tricky if you're like a lesser footballing nation like Canada, but you've got one blatant star in Alphonso Davies. I always find it really fascinating how the team...
He was everywhere.
Exactly. I find it fascinating how the team utilised that player. So sometimes he was left wing back, sometimes he was central midfield, sometimes he was right wing back. So maybe a better utilisation of him and some other stars coming through can mean that when they host the World Cup in 4 years, maybe they'll have a better chance of getting out.
I thought that Buchanan was quite good. He was on the other side. He was quite because Davies plays left wing for Canada, and he was playing right wing, I think, and he was very good. But I just felt like you need to put more trust in the rest of your team, because if Davies is constantly coming back, is that him not saying I'm better than you, I should get the ball more, or is it the manager being like, right, you do everything because you're better? And I don't really trust these to build up play. It's like, but you're going to have trust to be able to win.
Mm-hmm. And then and another surprise, Morocco not qualifying, topping the group. We knew they had a couple of really good individuals playing in Europe, the likes of Ziyech and Hakimi, for example. But how impressive you've been with Morocco, and another team that did not lose. And this isn't an easy group on paper. Croatia, Belgium, very hard. I mean, Belgium are ranked, second in the world by FIFA?
Yeah.
I know they aren't that in terms of output, but brilliant work by Morocco, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very good. No one expected that, because when you go through the groups, there's some teams you just kind of skip over because you go, don't know much about them. They're not going to go far. And then they actually play well. Yeah. It's not like, they've 4 goals, 1 conceded, done better, or lucky to be where they are. They played very well. Yeah,
definitely. And somehow Courtois didn't learn in the game against Belgium. I think it was Ziyech took a free kick, which was like a shot/cross. He was fooled by it. They got away with it because it was offside. In the second half, did the exact same thing, and he fell for it again. It was really bizarre. Huge shout out to Morocco for doing really well. And they are, as I said, we're getting to the round of 16. They are one of the teams who I could see, one of the underdogs, who I could see actually maybe doing something against Spain. Even though I just talked about how good Spain are, I think they could do something. That's for sure. Group G, we just talked about how poorly your dark horses were. Serbia were mine. And at one point in the end, finishing bottom of
Turkey all over again from the Euros.
The group, yeah. But it's such a shame, because there was a moment in that group when they were coming second, because they did go,
Switzerland.
They went 1-0 down to Switzerland, but then finally the manager started both Vlahovic and Mitrovic in the same team, and what a surprise! The attacking output was really good with Tadic in behind. But the issue with Serbia that I noticed throughout this whole tournament was that they're so defensively poor. There's just they play a back three, but there is no support from the wing backs. So it means that the wing backs are just acting like wingers. So it means there's chasms of space in behind, which Shaqiri, one of your favourite players, just goes, oh, thanks very much. I'll run into that space and I'll just score a goal. And that's exactly what happened. So Serbia, a lot of good individuals, but I feel like they were tactically mismanaged.
There's a lot. I feel it's a lot of countries when you watch them at World Cups, you think there's a lot there. They just don't have a manager. Yeah. They don't have a good coach.
Yeah, and the Serbian manager is the Serbian Roberto Martinez. Yeah. Ruining Serbia's golden generation. I don't even know if it is. But Serbia should have had the quality to get through, but defensively poor, tactically poor from a defensive standpoint. That's for sure. But no jokes aside, Milinkovic-Savic genuinely is a good player and really impressed me.
He is a good player. Yeah. I just find it quite funny, even though I've seen him play and you're acting like he's a bloody godsend. But he is a good player.
I was doing it as a joke. I didn't expect him to actually be really good.
No, he is very good. He's weird because he's not... He kind of reminds me, in a way, of Yaya Toure.
Right,
the way he plays. He does a bit of everything in midfield, and he's a big, brute guy.
Yeah, I thought he had a quiet game against Switzerland. He got brought off. Poor tactical decision by the manager. But I thought against Brazil and Cameroon, he was good. He obviously scored a goal against Cameroon as well. So a bit of a saving grace. Cameroon came third. There was a moment where because of Cameroon,
they needed the other game to be. They had to win and the other game be a draw, and they would go through on goal difference.
Yeah,
because if Serbia would have equalised.
Yeah.
They would have gone through.
Yeah. Or if Switzerland scored another goal, then Switzerland would have topped the group ahead of Brazil because of goals scored. Yeah. Something like that. Yes.
I'll look at the board now. It is. Yeah.
There you go. Which would have been really really interesting. Obviously, that didn't happen. But yeah, and then that match ended in what was that? Was it Abubakar that decided to get sent off in the last minute?
Put it this way, right? This is how I looked at it when it happened. I think he's quite old. He's probably going to retire, potentially. He's probably just thought, my last moment for my national team, I have scored the winner against Brazil. I'm taking in this moment. I don't care. The best part is the way the referee just goes, oh, well done. Red card.
Okay, quick trivia. Abubakar becomes the first player to score a goal and get red carded in a World Cup match since...
Oh, I know this. No, you got to tell me. I don't know this. Oh,
very infamous attack.
Oh, Zidane.
Yes. Yeah. Since 2006.
I was thinking celebration, but yeah.
But I just found it funny that, like, what if he did that? You know, you're absolutely right. In his head, he's thinking, we're getting knocked out anyway. I'm just going to have a vibe. And then somehow Serbia gets, because that was in the 87th minute, was it, that goal? The Cameroon one was like the 91st. I think it was after the 90 minutes. I think it was. Maybe it was because there was lots of added time in the Serbia game because there was like fights on the pitch. But you know, what if Serbia scored 2 goals and Cameroon went through and he can't play in the round of 16? I just thought that'd be really funny.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
If that happens, Switzerland have been lots of people's dark horses, and they actually did justify their dark horse. Claim their main keeper was out for the Serbia game, Sommer, but they do have lots of good individuals. Gaskey, can you maybe see them getting past the round of 16, or is it going to be too much for them?
They got Portugal, haven't they? I mean, potentially. I think that in my eyes, that's another game because Portugal are not bad, but I wouldn't put them in the Brazil and England level in terms of how teams have played.
Yeah.
I can see them. I can see them beating Portugal, but I just don't. I don't think they will. But there is also a bit there potentially. It
should be tight, shouldn't it? Because Switzerland knocked out France at the Euros, so they're not bad by any means.
And it's a similar squad as well.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, group leaders Brazil. Look, they lost their last game, but it was a B team or maybe even the C team.
But they used their subs, didn't they? So.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of the first 2 games. Not been impressed with them. I go off. They rely too much on Neymar. The amount of quality they have, they lack someone who can connect the dots, which is what Neymar did. And I go off what I said. All the gear, no idea. That's what they look like. They've got all this talent, and when they get the ball going towards the final third, it's a bit right. Okay, who's going to be the guy? When Neymar's not on the pitch, there's no one. So someone has to be that player. Yeah, definitely. I think that. Certainly on paper, when Neymar isn't in the midfield, you look at that team and you think, oh, that's actually a distinctly, it's not a bad team, but it's only all right. It's not brilliant, it's not indestructible. I see Vinicius Jr. as a huge threat, but apart from that, I'm not really scared from like an England perspective. I wouldn't really be scared of that team.
It rounds up this World Cup in terms of there's no standout team. For I can't remember the last time and it was been like that, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, and obviously, and I know he doesn't play anyway, but Gabriel Jesus is now out for the whole World Cup. I think
they said Tejas is out as well.
Yeah. Again, I don't think he was starting anyway because it was
squad players, but it's interesting. Like, what happens if Richarlison gets injured?
You'd rather have them than not, wouldn't you? That's for sure.
Exactly.
So it's a shame for Gabriel Jesus, but hopefully he can. He can't recover, can he? Because they've said he's out, so sucks to be you, I guess. And Group H, I'd say who else it sucks to be, Gaskey? Luis Suarez.
Armour. Justice.
It couldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke, could it?
That's all of us where that's been. Couldn't happen to a nicer bloke.
Oh, it is. It is.
Do you know what makes it even better? Sorry to interrupt, but what makes it even better is you might have not seen it, but there's a picture put on social media of him crying, and Patrice ever liked it.
Yes, I saw
that. Makes it even better.
Yeah, I saw that. It's so funny. He got what he's, and it's also that I know that they beat Ghana technically, but you could say that Ghana not conceding a third technically, they took Uruguay with them, so they sort of get that revenge from 2010 when Suarez did the cheats.
Also, in that the behaviour at the end of that game was ridiculous.
Oh God, like
absolutely pathetic.
Babies, aren't they?
Like it's like you can't blame not getting a 50-50 penalty on you going out of the World Cup. You should have the shittest game at the World Cup was South Korea against Uruguay, no shots. And you can't blame the bloody referees because you're crap.
Exactly. Like you only scored 2 goals in 3 games. Like it's on you guys. You didn't score a goal in the first 2 games. I don't really know what you were expecting there. So Suarez can sort off. But isn't that beautiful now? Because it means that Suarez plays in Uruguay nowadays. So he realistically as a player, most people aren't going to see him again because he's playing
I think
in
he's
Uruguay.
Clubless now as well.
Oh right, well
because he haven't renewed his contract.
So even more so. So that image, I love how the cameras kept going to him crying as well. So that image of Suarez crying with his like head in his shirt. That's the last image we're going to have of Luis Suarez, and that's all he deserves for being a cheating,
the person he is,
fighting, racist knob. Yeah, so I've got no sympathy for that knobhead. I felt a bit sorry for Darwin Nunez because Darwin seems like a nice chap.
You say that, but it's like that moment with the penalty spot. You could tell he's looking at it. His brain's telling him not to do it, and you just went,
You're not wrong.
I'll rough it up a bit.
You're not wrong. So that's Uruguay. Really disappointing that considering I know they're aging. I know Nunez isn't necessarily that player yet, but they do have Nunez and Cavani and Suarez. And none of those 3 could score 1 goal.
They've got some good young players. But then I was like shocked. Like their defense, like Godin's still playing.
Yeah, I know.
And Jimenez isn't young anymore. And then your third best is Coates, who was a flop at Liverpool, and then doesn't really do much now.
Yeah,
so
and they've got some good midfielders. Valverde, Bentancur. That team had enough to qualify, but ultimately they didn't. Ghana. It's such a shame for Ghana. They were so. I feel like if they scored another penalty miss, if they score that penalty, I think they probably go through and they probably win that game. But they seem to miss a penalty and then their heads went and then they just couldn't seem to recover.
The problem is Korea won. And it would have gone to goal difference.
No, because
they needed goals.
No, because Ghana would have 6 points if they won that game.
Oh yeah, they would. They would have 6 points, wouldn't they? Yeah.
So, but assuming they could have held it out anyway.
And they would have took the lead, wouldn't they, with that penalty as well? So.
Yeah, but I've no idea why they gave it to Andre Ayew, to be honest. Who's now playing in Saudi
Kudus is
Arabia.
on there, and Kudus is there, who's hitting the target for everything he does.
Yeah.
Give it to you, informed player.
Yeah, rather than Ayew, who is Saudi Arabia or Qatar is playing, and I can't recall. But it's a shame for Ghana. Some interesting players there, but some really dross ones, like Amati, for example. He's not good at football.
It's weird though because he's not a centre back.
No,
he's not. He's been playing midfield and he's been dumped to centre back for Leicester and for Ghana, and it's a bit like, well,
yeah, and he can't do it clearly. Clearly. Also, Ghana's goalkeeper is shocking, absolutely shocking overall. I know he made a couple of good saves, but overall he was dross.
Yeah,
absolute dross. South Korea qualified. And
out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't even think Son scored a goal either. They scored 4. I don't think Son scored 1, did he?
No, Son didn't score 1. He was a bit. I think he got to a point when he was a bit like, I'll do it all. But the goal that got them through was him going, I'll pass this one.
Yeah. I'll just do it myself. Go past everyone.
Actually, let me give it to Hwang. Go.
Yeah. So another huge upset there. South Korea getting through after a terrible game against Uruguay, but then sneaking their way into that top 2. And then Portugal, who were at the start of the tournament, I thought they might struggle. One of their main players has struggled. We'll get into that. But ultimately, they have topped the group. That loss against South Korea didn't really mean anything to them. It just meant that Uruguay were getting knocked out. So very generous of Portugal to allow that to happen. But they have actually looked... the last game aside, when they knew they qualified anyway, they have looked all right, haven't they, Portugal?
They have nothing bad, just they've looked okay. Mm-hmm. Not a bad team, but nothing like you're going to push on and try and win the title. Yeah, they're just a few dodgy players in there. Like some of them play very well. Like Bruno's played very well.
He's been brilliant.
Ronaldo, he's just past it. People need to shut up. He's past it, right? He doesn't do anything. He doesn't help the team. And I'll go by him not playing, Portugal will be a better team. overall.
And can we also just touch on the absolutely shameless celebration that he did when he scored that ghost goal, and then the whole thing of trying to get the Portuguese FA to beg to FIFA to give him the goal. Like, what is that all about?
It's like, grow up, grow up. Like I said to you, what would he have done if Bruno scored a hat-trick? Are you still you're going to take his hat-trick off him?
And he very nearly did, because he hit the post,
for one
didn't
goal. He? Yeah. For his goal. Oh, I don't get him. Petulant child is what he is.
Yeah.
And he actually went crying to Piers Morgan as well.
Yeah. He literally did. That meme is actually real.
People made a meme to joke about it, but it actually happened.
Yeah, it's genuinely, it's terrible. I think that it's very, I mean, we've seen it at United. We talked about his interview. It's very obvious that he's not a team player, and he's all about him. We've known it for a while, to be honest, but this just makes it even more evident.
I feel like good players will always have that bit of arrogance about themselves, but you've always still got to play for the team.
Yeah.
Like Ibrahimovic is very arrogant about himself, but he's not like he's all about me, not about my team. He still has a bit of team mentality in him. But Ronaldo's just clearly all about him.
Yeah. Just he's a swine. is a CR37. And that is the group. So what I want us to do now is take a look at what we had in respect of our pre-World Cup predictions.
It is impossible to keep track of all the football, but your best chance is here.
So there are some we can't talk about. Oh, and I guess we can talk about if we're still on track or not. So we had the winner, the surprise team, surprisingly poor team, top scorer, player of the tournament, flop of the tournament, and young player of the tournament. So our winners, we both said England. We're still confident on that, yeah? It's still coming home. Love that. Now, we both got our dark horse / surprise team incredibly wrong.
We bottled it. Yeah. We bottled it.
We've already talked about that at length. Gaskey said Canada. I said Serbia. But we may yet have got the next one correct. And Gaskey certainly smashed this one. Surprisingly poor team, Gaskey. Who did you predict to be poor?
I predicted Belgium for that. And I'll take that one.
Absolutely correct. Finishing third. So many of their players are underperforming, because even though they're old, there's still some decent quality there. Certainly enough to qualify from that group.
Definitely.
I had Portugal. Now, that hasn't transpired yet, but I don't see them getting past the quarterfinals. So
would you say, though, if they got to the quarter and got knocked out, that's them being poor, surprisingly? Because I think that's on par to where they could get, personally.
I don't know.
Who did they play? They play Spain, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So
I think that's where the line is drawn, in my opinion. So I feel that's just like they've just done what me personally, I would expect.
Yeah, maybe. I think I'd maybe push it to semi-final, just because I think in terms of individual players, they do have one of the best teams in the competition.
Maybe a 50-50 against Spain.
Yeah, so maybe that surprisingly poor team for me. It wasn't the best call in the end. Neither was my top scorer. It could happen, but I said Neymar. He's been injured since the first game, so obviously hasn't been able to score. But Gaskey, you're currently on track, aren't you? Because you said...
Mbappe I had. Mbappe. He's on top. He's joint top.
Yeah, with one Marcus Rashford.
Oh, yes.
And who else? And another one that is potentially on track is the flop of the tournament, Gaskey. And to be fair, I think this one we've both got correct, I think. Because you said...
I said Nunes, who has... basically done. I'm not going to be one of these that goes no goals and assists. He's been a flop. He's just not done anything. I was expecting him to bag some goals. Uruguay get through. He had a really good group stage, and everyone's like, "Oh, look, this is what Nunes can do," but he doesn't really do anything. Yeah,
not the best from him. And I said that Ronaldo would be the flop of the tournament. And I know he scored a goal. I know he scored that quote ghost goal, which fortunately wasn't credited to him. But he's been really bad. Hasn't his performance has been dropped.
He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Even some of the shots he's had, it's just like he's literally like watching United again, because that's what he did for United. Picks the ball, does it all himself, and then does something horrendous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is finished. I think it's sad.
Yeah. No, he is. But it is sad. But he's tainting himself now. He's putting himself in a bad light.
He's not handling it well.
You just need to. Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, and I know that I don't really pay that much attention to player ratings, but I just saw this as a funny thing. It was shared on Twitter. It was like here are like the player.
I think I saw this. Was it the worst 11?
Yeah,
He was in
the
that,
worst 11 in respect of player ratings, and Ronaldo's up there with like a 6.3 or something average.
With all the
games.
Qatari players.
Yeah,
in there.
yeah, exactly. So I think we got our flops. You know, they're all right. And for player of the tournament, I said Messi, which could still happen. I think I'm still on track for that.
Yeah. Because for me, I just went, I'm going to go for an English player because if they win it, I just feel like it's going to be someone from England. So I just did a Saka for their both young and player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
which
again,
isn't. I mean,
could happen.
It could happen.
Yeah, I've got him as my young player. Yeah, and I guess that's the issue with England. We've got so many good wingers. Does he even Does he even start against Senegal? Does he stick with Foden, Rashford? Does he do Rashford, Sterling? Does he do Grealish, Foden, whatever?
Good problem to have.
Definitely. But yeah, so some of those predictions, mainly the dark horse ones, were terrible. But some of them, in fairness, are still... We can still achieve those. Like, you know, the winner, the poor team, maybe, top scorer, and at least we're sort of spot on with the flops. So that's fine. I think it's fair to say. And now, speaking of predictions, before we go on to NobGas, I do just want us to have a very quick chat about the round of 16 and what we think is going to happen here. So we can cheat with one of them because Netherlands are currently beating USA 2-0, but we both thought...
Oh, it's 2-1 now.
Oh, is it? Oh.
They're playing at the moment. USA have scored.
Oh, okay.
Just now, actually. So, 15 minutes remain. Right. Potentially, when you tune in, USA could be in, or it could be Netherlands.
So I'm going to say that Netherlands still win that one.
I still think they win that one.
And I would have said that before they were leading anyway.
I would have as well.
Argentina, Australia. It's Argentina, isn't it?
Yeah. The two. Australia had the fun.
Japan, Croatia. Can you see another upset, or Croatia can have too much quality?
Yeah, I think Croatia are too good on the ball. Japan will see none of it in that game, and I just think the two, like that, I can't even pronounce his name, that young centre back, they'll just have him on toast. Vardiol is his name? I can't remember what his name is. So I just don't think they'll have enough, and that's Japan's end of the road as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be Croatia. Brazil, South Korea.
Brazil.
Yeah. And this is the thing I was talking about with the lack of intrigue in these round of 16s.
I mean, it's hard to make it interesting, isn't it? Because the games are just a bit... We've had all the fun in the group stage.
Yeah. Again, France, Poland. It's going to be France. Quite comfortably.
Poland.
I think that will be a battering. I think that'll be like a 3-0 or 4-0 or something, to be honest.
Yeah.
England, Senegal. Come on.
England, 4-1.
Yes, get it. It'll be the rubbish version of Koulibaly and Mendy that
sorry to interrupt. It's 3-1 to Netherlands.
There you go. There you go. That was short-lived for the US. Morocco, Spain could be one where there is an upset. Another one, I think.
Yeah, Morocco. I would say what's interesting in looking at these games though is trying to in my head think of who is the dark horse, and I feel like there's a few. If you're looking at the last 16, but I think Morocco potentially can take it to Spain.
Definitely,
because they looked very comfortable, even against France. Not France, Belgium. Belgium. They looked very comfortable against Belgium in terms of just they didn't let them have any of the ball, and they were very calm and collected. So I feel like they could be like with Spain. They might not see a lot of the ball, but I feel like very, very robust, structured.
100%. And then finally, Portugal, Switzerland. I think Portugal take that one for me.
I think it'll be close. I think Tuesday. They're both games on Tuesday. Could be both close games.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And even though for me the round 16 maybe a little bit boring, I think that will, if all those results go that way, that will produce some very tasty quarterfinal games because that would create Netherlands, Argentina, Croatia, Brazil. That's it again. Interesting. France, England, and Spain, Portugal. So towards the business end of the tournament, that is where we're getting. This goes down to
my question, doesn't it? You have to kind of scan over the last 16 until you get to the interesting quarterfinals because of all the fun we've had in the group stage.
Yeah.
So
definitely. But those are our predictions, and I'm sure we'll do another podcast after the conclusion of the round of 16. Gaskey, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Lovely stuff. And the final section of this podcast is NobGas.
It will never be finally decided who has won the football.
which is where we get questions from the Noblets, the supporters on Patreon. If you would like to support the channel and get involved, the link is in every single video description. Now, Jax asks a question here. I've sort of expanded it into a wider question. So Jack specifically has asked, why is Julian Alvarez been so bloody good for Argentina? And he has. And that surprised me. I didn't think he'd feature at all.
No.
Martin, by the way, just quickly, Lisandro Martinez, he's the one that plays for Inter Milan, yes?
Lautaro Martinez is the Inter, yeah.
Lautaro Martinez. He's been poor, I think, every time I've seen him.
He was the one you'd expect. He's the one you'd expect to start Argentina, which he was. But he just offered nothing.
Yeah.
So they changed it, which is what you do at the World Cup.
Yeah, and Alvarez scored a very good goal.
Brilliant. He's brilliant goal. Even when he joined, I thought he's one for. He's like with Jesus joined today. One for the future. He's back up for Haaland. Obviously, he knew that when he was coming, probably, and he's proven he's worth it.
Yeah,
he's worth every penny.
And I've sort of expanded that question out a little bit to just generally speaking. So, for example, it's Alvarez for Jack, maybe. Who's been like surprisingly good so far? Is the answer Alvarez for you, or is there another player?
It's off the top of my head because I have to think. Gavi was very good because he was, and everyone knew he was quite a good player, but at his age, doing what he's doing is
Gakpo, maybe
scary. Yeah, Gakpo has been very good. He's someone, for that Netherlands team, someone's got to stand up and put the ball in the net, and he's doing it very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of Alvarez, we will not want to start, but he's starting and he's took the place off Martinez, so it's hard to disagree, really.
Yeah, 100%. It's good from a City perspective as well, obviously. Yeah. Lucas asks, how many goals do you think Rashford will score by the end of the World Cup? Currently level in terms of the Golden Boot on 3, unless Gakpo scored in the Netherlands game, has he? Do we know?
I don't know. He hasn't. It was Dumfries that got the third one.
Who got the first 2?
Yeah. Blind and Depay.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't.
Okay. Yeah. So how many goals will Rashford score by the end, do you think?
See, that's a tough one because of the way England rotate.
Exactly.
So if he plays, there's no reason why he can't win the Golden Boot at all. Because the way England are playing with Kane doing his deep drop and then the wingers doing the goal scoring, he can score as many as he wants. He's playing very well. He's playing with a smile on his face. Good to see. There's no reason why he can't win the Golden Boot at all. So, but it depends if he plays.
I want a specific number from you.
I'm going to say, do I be United fan or do I be normal? No, I'm going to say 6.
Okay, that's close.
He's going to double his tally.
That's close to what I was going to say. I'm going to say 5. I think that Southgate isn't going to start him that much, but he will bring him on as a sub. I can see him, coming on in like the quarterfinal or a semi-final and scoring a couple of goals, or even the final and scoring a goal. There. So I'm going to say 5, but they'll be important goals. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And then the last question from DR: would you rather go to Qatar to watch England in a World Cup final, or would you rather go to Hawaii to see your club in a Champions League final?
Interesting. I mean, first of all, why is the Champions League final in Hawaii? Everywhere. Fair enough.
I imagine just because it's a nice place to be, I guess.
Yeah. I'd probably say Champions League final because I wouldn't want to go to Qatar, to be honest.
Yeah.
Obviously with the way the country is, and also being ginger in the heat won't be good for me. I know it's Hawaii still, but also it's United. It's guess what's United in the Champions League final in Hawaii. Nice place. Yeah. I would say Champions League final.
Yeah, I don't want to go to Qatar generally, and I certainly don't want to go after I made my video on Qatar slandering.
Imagine, we're not letting you in. Get him out.
Yeah, so I don't want to go there because I might get scooped up, and you'll never see me again. From your point
of view, would you, no matter what country, any country in the world, England in a World Cup final or City in a Champions League final?
England though, yeah.
England.
If the country wasn't a factor.
If you put, I could either go and watch United or England, one in World Cup final, one in Champions League final, I'd pick England every day.
Yeah, definitely for me, because we've talked about it before, but we obviously like our clubs, but we do prefer nation.
No, it's just bigger in it. It's the biggest. It's what everyone wants to win. So
it's a different vibe.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your questions on NobGas. Really hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Our roundup of the group stage of the World Cup. Again, let us know if you've been enjoying the World Cup? Do you care about the entertainment versus quality factor? And we will be back for the first knockout round roundup again. And again, we'll revisit our predictions, see how we did. But I think every single one of these, we've gone with the favourites, haven't we? So unless...
Yeah. Apart from the Morocco-Spain one's the one that we're 50-50 on.
Yeah. But to be fair, if you have to push me, I'll still say Spain to win that one. Yeah. That's for sure. But I've been Nobbins. Goodbye. He's been Gaskey.
Bye.
And we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.